What's up, weebs? Welcome back to Anime Lane. As always, I'm your host, Notorious, and joining me once again today, as always, is Shaun.
Hello.
So today, anyone who's familiar with us listening to the show for a long time, you probably know that I bring it up a lot, but we're both pretty interested in like physical home media, the upgrade of technology across the history of it, and how, you know, that can be very beneficial to watching a movie or TV show.
We can be technical nerds when we have to be. I'm sure there was an episode where we completely derailed at one point, and unfortunately Melina just had to sit there and listen to us talk about bullshit she didn't care about.
Yeah.
Sorry again.
And so I guess as like a prelude to an episode that I've sort of got an idea for and I'm kind of working on sporadically in the background, so who knows when it'll happen. You know, this year the 4K format's been out for about 10 years now, which is kind of crazy to think, because it doesn't have the same support that 10 years on from just Blu-ray's release that had. It still feels very niche, doesn't it? Yeah, it's also still very much a premium format, whereas by this point Blu-ray was like, it was a common format. It wasn't premium.
Yeah.
And like, yeah, technically, by all the technical innovations that 4K brings along, it is a premium format, but only in the way that Blu-ray also brought a lot of technical innovations too.
Yeah.
All this preamble to say, we wanted to talk about some of our favorite sort of 4K restorations, how important 4K can be to enjoying a movie as an experience, how it can impact it negatively too. And so I think my prime example that I'm going to bring up at the start here is I went to see Akira about a month ago now, I think.
Yeah,
they were showing it again in the cinemas, as they do. Akira is one of those films that's kind of constantly in and out of the theaters. And I went to see it in IMAX. And it's the second time I've seen the 4K restoration on the big screen, but it's the first time I've seen it in IMAX. And it very much drew to my attention just how flawed that remaster is. It's very glaringly obvious how little grain they've kept in, how they've tried to make it a very pristine, clean image. And when you're pulling from old film prints, when you're scanning in, you know, 35mm and stuff like that, you kind of need to keep some grain to keep the identity of a film, but also just to not wipe away any detail. Akira doesn't necessarily do that, but because of the animation style of Akira, how fluid it can be, it makes everything very odd and stilted, and the animation gets very messy looking and jarring because of that. And so it was sort of disappointing to see that, like, yeah, this isn't the best way to watch this movie. Even as someone who
it's still not like it's not the definitive way still, even though it really should be.
And if you own the home video version here in the UK, currently out of print because the license has changed hands over here for the first time in like 30 years or whatever, it's not just the image that's messed up. Originally, when they released the disc over here, they had no HDR, despite saying that it did. So they done a disc replacement scheme, but both of the discs, both the SDR disc and the HDR disc, have a messed up audio track on it, because every release of Akira since it first came out in Blu-ray has had a what's it called? A high frequency sample rate audio mix it's called hypersonic.
Okay.
So rather than the traditional 48 kilohertz sample rate of Blu-ray audio mixes, this uses a 96 kilohertz sample rate, but for some reason on the 4K disc, despite it being present on the old Blu-ray, they downmixed it to 48 kilohertz, and it completely messed everything up. Everything is just too deep. Some of the high sound effects are completely lost. the music's messed up.
Oh, fucking dandy.
So it's that's just the Japanese tracks, but that means that you can't watch it in Japanese. Essentially, you have to watch it in English if you're watching one of those discs. But you're also watching a compromised image of it. So yeah, the best way to watch Akira still remains to be the Blu-ray release, because actually they kind of fucking nailed that. The Blu-ray transfer is incredible, pretty top notch, genuinely the best the movie's ever looked. But yeah, that's the
But that's like wild, isn't it?
Yeah. And unfortunately, it's kind of common that stuff like that happens. Like, you know, James Cameron is one of those guys that just can't fucking help himself to immediately just jump into that.
I was gonna bring this up as like a bad example, but I didn't realize it would just immediately head to that way. But yeah, let's discuss Terminator 2 for a second, shall we?
Oh, I was gonna bring up Aliens.
Oh, okay, no, go with Aliens.
So yeah, Aliens sort of has the same issues as Terminator 2, where, you know, he just took that pristine, again, they really fucking nailed that transfer on the Blu-ray, and he took that, and when he scanned it in for 4K, he just sort of made it just so clean that it's inhuman, to the point that it flips between being a really, really good transfer at times to the most plastic thing that you've ever seen in your life.
There's a small sort of like, there's a type of filmmaker when it comes specifically to putting their movies on home releases, especially some of their older movies being moved to a new format, where a lot of filmmakers will take it as an opportunity to make it, to just do what you'd think they do. They make it look as good as it could be. They'll restore it as best they can. They'll do their damnness to make it look as good as it was in the cinema, or even in some places surpass what it was in the cinema. But still, their focus is to get the film that they made on the new format looking as good as ever.
Yep.
But sometimes you get some filmmakers, most egregious is Lucas, but I'm not going to delve into his bullshit.
Because he's a whole other category. He's different. He's...
Yeah. But, like, they'll pull... Well, James Cameron and even people like Peter Jackson, like, to a little bit of a lesser extent, will have the idea of, I have the opportunity here to make my film look more modern. To make it look like I had made it with the techniques I would use now. Or make it more consistent with maybe some of the other films I made later on in this series. So you've got James Cameron taking an AI algorithm to his movies to squeeze out all of the grain, because he hates grain, he thinks it's archaic or something, and just wipe it all away, leaving so much of the characters looking like wax dolls.
Yep.
I hate to say this was the way I watched the movie on Disney Plus, by the way, where half the time it looks fine, half the times it's just really uncanny.
There's that one scene that I think is the most egregious, where they're trying to get back to the ship, when like all the aliens start chasing them, and you see like in the cockpit the pilot with the sunglasses, and I don't know if he's tried to add in reflections to the glasses, but he's done something where it does not look real. There's no other word to describe it.
It's purely like, it's so artificial looking, like in complete contrast to the way the rest of the film looks, that it just sticks out like a sore thumb. The scene for me in that movie that kind of always sticks in my head is near the beginning of the movie, where I think is it Ripley like basically debriefing whatever crew she's like, they're going on the mission to like whatever they're doing, and like it's a scene where like there's a bunch of like people in the scene, but like half the people look highly detailed because the grain's still there and hasn't been washed away, but then you get close-ups of people's faces and it's like they've been coated in like a layer of, I don't know, icing or cake batter or whatever, and it's like, okay, this is this is kind of surreal to look at, how half the people look human and half the people look like androids, even though there's no androids in this scene.
Yeah.
And the androids look human, or they're supposed to look human, so it's such a botched job that I'm shocked on how it got past any sort of quality testing. And I say that, I know how. It's because no one wanted to say no to James Cameron.
That's pretty much it. He is the director. He is the one overseeing that process, and that can sort of be the catch-22 of bringing a remaster to a movie, is that, you know, realistically, it should by and large be overseen by either director or the DOP, or the original editor. Those are all very acceptable choices as to people who oversee the transfer of it, because those are the people most intimately familiar with how the film should look. The problem is with the director is that sometimes you get people like James Cameron who have too much of either, one, an ego, or two, and Cameron has both of these, a hard-on for technology that should not be inserted for use with the restoration of film. And he has both
again,
of those.
it's like the Lucas thing where he gets so wound up in using this brand new technology that they can like add into these old films and make them better, that just makes them worse and makes all the new shit clash with the old shit.
Yeah.
Like a sore thumb. I still feel like Terminator 2, from what I've seen on that 4K, is still the most egregious botched job on that idea. Because the entire, like, it's not just been, like, enhanced that way in massive air quotes, like with airbrushing and stuff, but also just, like, he decided to regrade the entire film so that night scenes especially look so massively warped compared to how they originally looked.
He put in like entirely new lighting elements in post. He didn't just regrade it, he relit some scenes by doing stuff in post, and it's crazy that that's something that a studio would let someone do, but it's James Cameron. Who's going to say no to James Cameron?
Yeah. It's easy, he can do whatever the fuck he wants. He's James Cameron. We're not going to say no to him. Who do you think? Would that be insane? He's James Cameron. He makes so many movies that just top the global box office for some reason. It made sense with Titanic. I understand Titanic, kind of, but when it came to Avatar, what the fuck?
I don't get it either. I simply don't get it.
Yeah. But has he botched Terminator 1 at this point?
Not that I'm aware of, but I haven't really looked into how that shaped up on 4K. But considering people screamed the house down when Judgment Day hit 4K, and when Aliens also then hit 4K, the fact I haven't seen anything about the Terminator, it kind of leads me to believe maybe he didn't go as ham on it, but, you know, who knows? Yeah.
I'm still sticking with the older Blu-rays that I managed to get of both of those movies. I got T1 a few years ago, and that looked, from what I remember, that looks fine on Blu-ray. There's nothing really egregious there. And when we went into CEX, a good sort of shop in the UK for like
Computer Entertainment Exchange, a second-hand media store.
Yeah. God bless it. Love it. Even if sometimes the hall is shit. But
yeah.
And the last time we were there, I decided to pick up. I spotted one of the old Terminator 2 Blu-rays, the Skynet edition, which I'm not sure is the best Blu-ray either, but I'll take it over the 4K. And I decided to just grab that, and at least it has like all fucking 3 versions of that movie.
Yeah.
So I decided to grab that, and I don't feel that too bad about it because there's no way I'm getting the 4K, even though naturally you'd think that would be the one I jump to.
Yeah, I don't own the 4K one. I don't think I've got any of the Terminator movies on 4K. I've considered Salvation a couple of times, just because I think that one actually might get a decent upgrade, but I'm not sure. At the end of the day, it's Salvation. I don't care that much. I think it's maybe...
It's not one you're gonna jump to.
No, like, it may be hated on a little bit more than I think it should be. But equally, it's not a film I'm willing to spend too much money on to upgrade. I'm trying to think of, like, good examples of restorations.
I do have one of those, thankfully, that is fairly recent. Because one of the things that sort of sparked this idea in my head to just talk about this was I got the Doctor Who TV movie like recently, because that came out in 4K finally for its 30th anniversary. And a little bit of history on the Doctor Who TV movie. It was co-production in America. It was shot on film. But it was shot on film, I think, for the NTSC standard, because it was an American co-production, and it was obviously broadcast on television. It wasn't shown in cinemas, so it was eventually, broadcast in standard definition. Those tapes were then, I think, used in the... I'm not sure if they took the original, like, film and then did a PAL conversion and then put it on, like, tape to, like, broadcast or whatever, but it was a whole clusterfuck of a situation but basically it ended up with every home media release from the VHS to the last Blu-ray edition decided that they were going to get their transfers from the PAL broadcast tapes of the movie.
Yeah.
So even on the previously most recent Blu-ray, it was still standard definition, upscaled from those tapes. It still looked kind of weird. Audio was a bit off. Those releases were still pretty good in terms of content. You got a whole bunch of bonus features for them, even on the DVD. But for the longest while, people were asking, we can barely get any Doctor Who in 4K, really. This is one of the only things we can get, and you're just not doing it. Why not? It would be so simple, unless you've lost, like, the film, which we don't think they have. Anyway, this year rolls around, 30th anniversary of the movie, and it gets announced that they actually have finally fucking done a restoration from the original film prints of the TV movie, and they're gonna release it in 4K. I got it about a week ago. I watched it immediately because I couldn't help myself. And despite the fact that it is still the TV movie, so, it's not the best thing ever, but in terms of, like, actual picture quality, it looks great. By far the best it's ever looked. The audio is very nice, and you can finally get a pristine bit of Doctor Who content in full, pure 4K without any hitches to it. That hasn't been upscaled to hell and back.
Yeah.
Because the previous Doctor Who 4K that we got, that I do own, was Twice Upon a Time, Capaldi's last episode, which wasn't shot in 4K.
No, it also doesn't look great in 4K because, TV has a different standard for HDR specifically, and that kind of led to a weird grading for it on that disc, and it just sort of doesn't look very good at all.
I'm trying to remember if that disc at least came with the normal Blu-ray version.
I think it does.
I think it did.
I've got it. It's on that shelf somewhere behind me, but I'm not gonna check.
I can go check it right now.
No, don't.
I wouldn't want to leave like in the middle of an episode, so I won't. But at the very least, yeah. I guess that's a good thing about 4K most of the time, is it does come with the standard Blu-ray anyway. So any sort of botched job they do on 4Ks, they can at least put an older Blu-ray on it and be like, there you go.
Yeah. For the whole Doctor Who TV movie thing, if I had to guess why it's taken so long for a proper from film remaster to happen, is that potentially, given that it's a TV movie, it was probably finished, like edited on tape. And so those master tapes would have been in NTSC. Those master tapes would have then been pulled down, converted to PAL, and then that would have been the master tapes that the BBC had. And so to restore it from its original film, unless there is a print for theatrical distribution, they would have had to have re-edited the entire movie precisely to fit. And so that wouldn't necessarily have meant going back to the film and re-editing from the film. It would have meant scanning in all of the film and re-editing it digitally, which is a long and time-consuming process and very expensive process as well.
Oh yeah. I have heard about that. I didn't even clock that, but I have heard about that being done very rarely. I think one of the we're bringing up Star Trek again. I think one of the Star Trek series did that when they went to Blu-ray for one of the TV series.
I believe Next Gen was done like that. I know that most of the Star Trek ones that were restored had like new CG and stuff put into them as well. I know that, is it Deep Space Nine, I think, has never had like a HD version because they don't want to go back and fully restore it, or they've lost the materials. I'm not sure which one it is. But yeah, it's a very time-consuming, expensive process to do something like that. So that's potentially why it's been held up for so long. It's maybe not that they didn't want to, it's maybe just that they've had to spend so much time on it, or they haven't had the materials or the manpower or the budget, because obviously you want to keep the budget of a release like that down, because otherwise you may not make back whatever you spent restoring it.
Especially in these days where, sadly, physical media is still on a bit of a... Getting better, I think, in the last, like, year or so, when people are finally getting fed up with streaming's bullshit, but...
Yeah, it's picked up in the last couple of years. I think 2024, 2025 were pretty big years for, like, growth again on physical media sales. However, I don't know the direct breakdowns. I don't know how much, like, vinyl is being factored into that, and considering Taylor Swift keeps releasing new variants of her albums, you know, how much of that
clearly she is like the atlas that is holding physical media on her back.
Top Gun's got a pretty great restoration though, like not just seeing that in the cinema, but on the disc, it's incredible to see that in 4K. It's got a very filmic, naturalistic look. It's not grain heavy, but there is still enough left that it enhances the warmth of like how that film was shot. Because
it looks very pristine.
Yeah. The thing is, I think, is that a lot of the good examples are just gonna sort of exist, and you're gonna watch them and you're gonna be like, that's great. It's gonna be the bad examples that actually stick in your mind, because there's gonna be, you're gonna be annoyed that they're bad.
Yeah. I will say a good example I can think of that's maybe not fully exceptional just on like their techniques, but just on like how good it fucking looks because of the circumstances. Blade Runner.
Yeah.
The original.
Blade Runner's always a really good, like, whenever it's been upgraded, has always been like a reference level disc. It's always been the one that you can look at and go, that's what this format should look like.
That is now a modern movie that was shot in 1982, 81, whenever.
Because they, if I recall correctly, they brought in the shots at 6K and then brought in the special effects shots at 8K so that they could more easily like make them presentable, if I recall correctly. I might be getting it mixed up. I might be getting the resolutions around the wrong way. It's been a while since I've looked at that.
Sentiment's still the same though. They bring in the actual like footage or like assets or whatever at a higher resolution so that it looks really good when it's like downscaled, downsampled, whatever.
Downscaled, basically, is what it would be.
Downscaled, yeah. Downsampled is audio, isn't it?
Downsample would be audio, yeah. You're typically not gonna the whole other conversation. I pointed directly to why you don't downsample audio with Akira. Typically, the lossless conversion means that you're not really downsampling or anything like that. Not the topic of conversation. Too many finer points to that. Sorry.
We're gonna be here like all day. Sorry.
Actually, hold on. Just since we're on that, this isn't 4K, but like, you'll know I've been recently picking up the bits of the Black Veil Bride discography that I'm missing, and I picked up the expanded edition of their third album, Wretched and Divine, which includes the DVD of their film, Legion of the Black. And so I watched that the day it came in, and I put it in and I was like, wow, there's so many of these shots that, like, except a handful, you would kind of believe this was HD. It doesn't look like you're watching this off a DVD. So like that was kind of impressive. There's only a couple of shots where things have the kind of moire effect of like interlacing issues. However, what got me was that when the menu loaded up, the menu was in CD quality audio. Now, anyone that's not familiar with CDs and DVDs, CD is always higher quality audio because it is lossless audio. It's digital audio. It is typically the PCM format, though it's a bit more complicated than that. It's not the point.
All you need to know is it is the good shit.
It's the good shit. So it loads up, and it's in PCM. For the menu, it's playing one of the songs. I can't remember which one it is. It's probably Wretched and Divine, the actual title track. I hit play, and I'm thinking, yeah, like, this is only a 45-minute movie. That means that if this is a decent-sized disc, then the film might not take up a huge amount of space. There's probably enough space that, given the standard size of a CD is 750 megabytes, the album, in its original lossless format, could fit on this disc.
Yeah, it would be enough.
It starts
a shorter film like this, absolutely.
And it's in DVD quality audio. It's only 128 kilobits a second bit rate, and I'm like, oh, for fuck's sake. It's not even the higher quality DVD audio that gets reserved for films, which can go up to, I think it's like 640 kilobits per second. No, it's the lower end for like TV shows where it's 128 kilobits. And yeah, I was slightly annoyed because I'm like, you probably have the space to just put in the lossless mix.
For a band movie, for lack of a better term.
Exactly.
You'd think the audio would be a higher priority in something like this.
Yeah. There's a missed opportunity to do that because at the time, like, Blu-rays were around, because this is 2012, and, like, I'm guessing they're, you know, a band, maybe not thinking ahead to, like, people watching this on, like, great setups later on. They're probably not thinking cinephile audio setups, but at the same time...
In their massive home theater setups, yeah.
Yeah. But at the same time, I just have a sound bar with a subwoofer, and, like, that always makes, like, a drastically decent upgrade to anything. But with a lossless audio track, that would have been cool. That would have been such a good way to watch it. Granted, the film's not great, but the album's great.
Yeah. You gave it, like, a 5 out of 10, if I remember right.
I did. And I was probably still being far more generous than I should have been. But they are my favourite band.
I could tell just from reading it. They're like, oh, you're giving it to this because it's your favourite band.
Pretty much, yeah. I always put in the review, like, on one hand, I want to be very kind. On the other hand, I don't want to fault a sycophancy.
Yeah. You can. It's your letterbox. Who's going to fucking blame you?
True, but I also, like, I grew up in the, like, scene for bands like that. And I detest the sycophancy of that fandom, where these people are infallible gods. This goes for every band, like Korn, Slipknot, and all this sort of stuff. You can knock it down. It actually gets Metallica. It gets worse the lower you go down as the fandoms get smaller. But yeah, besides the point. Sorry.
No. You see, that's fair. That's all very fair. The only band that is truly infallible is Spinal Tap, but that's not the point. I'm nowhere near as fucking an audiophile or even like a music head as much as you, so that's extra funny coming from me.
Back to the Future has really great transfers for all those movies. Those look great on 4K.
I was actually thinking that as like one of my best examples as well, because I've got that Ultimate Trilogy as well, and I remember I don't think I rewatched them all at the time. I should do that at some point soon. But like I did look through all of them.
Yeah.
As I got it, and was kind of blown away at just how much better those movies look compared to my usual way of watching them. Like years before then was the DVDs.
Oh wow! I had the Blu-rays, but the Blu-rays were still very early, like Blu-ray discs. So I think they were in an older codec as well, so they weren't they looked fine, but they weren't like stunning or anything like that.
Yeah.
But no, the 4K version of Back to the Future is amazing. I'm just sort of staring through my little viewfinder on Discord at the shelf behind me, like oh, Godzilla, you know, one that I didn't think would have like a really great bump.
Hold on, which Godzilla?
The original Godzilla, 1954. Because they're, you know, film prints that old, especially, there's only so far you can kind of take them, especially black and white. You know, stuff like losing original camera negatives. You know, what kind of generation of print are you taking from? Is it an interpositive? Okay, it's black and white. Interpositive doesn't really matter. All these sort of stuff can make it very complicated for older movies to be brought in at any sort of really stunning quality. Also, filmmaking techniques really blew up between maybe the 60s, 70s is when we really started to see a lot of great cinematography starting to really happen. Not that there wasn't any in existence at that point.
Yeah, but that was an innovation era right
there. And so, you know, it's a 4K SDR disc. There's no HDR on it. So I was like, yeah, there's only so far it'll go. It probably isn't like a massive upgrade, but as a Godzilla nerd, I want to own it. And then we watched it for the episode we did, like I think shortly before or after Christmas. I can't remember when specifically it was. Sure. But yeah, I finally watched it in 4K, and surprisingly, they fixed a lot of the issues that actually existed on the old HD transfer. It looks good. It looks as good as it can look. That's, you know, besides the point. But
yeah.
The original HD transfer that exists on the Blu-ray and stuff has very bad judder at times, where the film jumps up and down. And surprisingly, I just thought that was going to be a thing that always existed. I genuinely thought that was maybe something within many of the prints that existed, or like the way that the film was edited, that I thought that might have just been a thing inherently in the master that they could always just pull from. But no, they fixed it, and I was very surprised that that's a thing that it's subtle. If you haven't seen the original HD transfer, and if you haven't seen it in a while, you may not even notice, but it goes a long way into not distracting you in the middle of the movie.
Yeah, because I have the original HD transfer from Criterion as well.
Yep.
From that time, because you very generously gifted it to me when you didn't need it anymore.
No, I ended up with the wrong copy.
Yeah.
There's a whole story behind that.
Yeah, I can imagine. But I got that. I have that now, and like it's still good. It's still great. Special features especially make it worth just like the price alone. But like the problems you describe are noticeable to my eye. So, and I know. Not genuinely, you didn't think this would be like there would be that much of a stark difference, but at the same time, you gifted me the botched one, and now I'm annoyed. Fuck you. I have thought about getting the 4K for that as well at some point, but I still need to jump on getting the entire fucking...
Yeah, you need the Showa box set.
Showa.
That I have just right here.
It's just always a thing of, do I want to spend that much on that thing, as well as, where would I put it?
Yeah,
it's huge.
It's huge. That thing, so I pulled it down, because we're going to be covering...
I can see it, yeah.
Godzilla Raids Again, soon. We'll see when the actual release date for that ends up being. But so I pulled it down to get the disc out for Raids Again, and so I, copy Raids Again to my PC, put the disc back in, put that back up, and then I'm sitting watching Gundam the other night, and suddenly there's just this crashing sound, and I look over and all of the shelf is empty except the stuff that's behind the Showa box set, because I hadn't propped the Showa box set up properly, and it just took everything off the shelf with it.
Yeah, and dear listener, there's quite a lot of things on
there's
that
a
shelf.
lot of figures,
There's a lot of figures,
and something that can't really be seen by the camera is like a crystal turtle that I gave my gran for her birthday one year when she was still alive, and so I have that now, and so I was like, immediately looking through everything to find that, and I was like, thank God.
That's the priority.
Yeah. But yeah, no, it is an unwieldy bitch. It's a giant A3 book, essentially. It's massive.
Basically.
But it contains all 15 movies in the Showa era, including the US version of the original Godzilla and of King Kong versus Godzilla. Confusingly, the US version is the one that's on the main disc for King Kong versus Godzilla, and you have to find the original Japanese version on the bonus disc at the end of the collection. It's on disc 8 instead of disc 2, because the American version is on the same disc as Raids Again. Because after the first movie, they're all they're all 2 to 3 movies to a disc, essentially. So it's not unwieldy amount of discs.
I will grab it at some point. It's just, actually jumping to it whenever I feel like I can. I did eventually jump on the Evangelion one though, but now we're just getting off topic.
Yeah, this could become a whole episode of what movies do I own multiple versions of, because there's running jokes about which ones I own multiple copies of.
You still don't have Ghost in the Shell on every single format known to man yet.
I think I do. I got VHS.
You don't have the video CD.
Oh shit, I don't have the video CD. God damn it.
Okay, I used to make the joke for years that you gotta get the Laserdisc at some point, when I learned you had it on VHS, DVD, Blu-ray,
PSP
4K.
UMD.
Yeah, PSP UMD, that was always the one that was oh come on, now you gotta commit.
Yeah. The Laserdisc was always just this is easily gonna be the most expensive one to buy, because I had to import it from Japan.
Which is why I jumped on it, and I was like, you gotta get it, Laserdisc when, and you eventually fucking got it.
I did, yeah.
So to which I immediately pivot, okay, now you need the video CD.
Yeah. I'm pretty much in the same boat with Akira. I'm just missing the Laserdisc for that at this point, I think. But I'm not as concerned about getting Akira on Laserdisc.
Yeah. Akira's not one of your favorite movies of all time.
Akira's not part of my personality in the same way Ghost in the Shell is.
No, so it's not the same. Okay, back to 4K.
Back to 4K.
For a second. I have another example of a good transfer, in my view, but also one that's a completely botched transfer in my mind. So I don't know if you've got any other examples off your head before I start on either of those. My
main one is The Exorcist, of one that was so close to perfection, except when Friedkin decided, I'm gonna fuck it all up. Because A lot of that movie genuinely looks beautiful in 4K.
Gorgeous,
like,
yeah.
Genuinely amazing. It really brings like to the fore how well shot that movie actually is. It can come across as a very standard 70s horror movie, a very by the numbers shot movie, but when you see it in 4K, you're like, oh yeah, actually no, there's a lot of great cinematography in here. There's a lot of really great choices in how to shoot this. However, for the 4K version, Friedkin decided to one, regrade like the entire exorcism sequence to be a completely different color than it originally was, which is also not
was it more blue or less blue?
It's almost purple in many scenes. In the Blu-ray, I think it's slightly blue, but I think in the original DVD release, it has a much more natural look to it, a much more kind of like even lit look. Because to sort of give Friedkin a little bit of credit here, I understand into the Blu-ray release why he maybe regraded it a little bit, because the room's meant to be extremely cold, so I think he's just trying to get that impression across a bit more. It doesn't look bad in the Blu-ray release. In fact, I had no idea that it was different from the DVD release for a long time, even though I watched that DVD a lot.
Yeah.
But in the 4K version, I don't know why he went so intensely like purple with it. It doesn't look natural whatsoever. In fact, it blows out a lot of like light elements on screen. And there's also just so much DNR to certain aspects of that sequence that people look, again, like wax models. But the very, 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 very egregious scene is the one little sequence where Karis goes on the subway and every light in that shot is blown out. The train pulling up is like
blue.
Has so many chroma artifacts because of how much things have been ramped up by either color or brightness. You have like the beggar's eyes being like just so intensely like pulled up with color. It's a very, very it makes it very ugly, and it's not a very ugly shot in the original version of in the Blu-ray release or the DVD release. It's not like a stunning sequence or anything like that, but like it looks fucking ugly in 4K. It's very badly done. I think that's probably the most recent example I can think of, like a really bad job, because that was only like a couple of years ago that came out.
Okay. I always remember just in that like final sequence, just like it's not really like the parts you talked about, but it's just those couple of shots where suddenly the quality degrades back to DVD.
Yeah.
What the fuck was going on there? So for my examples, do I want to start with my good example or my bad example?
What's your good example? Let's start with that.
Okay. My good example is this. I'm not sure if this might be a surprise or like somewhat of a hot take. It's hard to tell, but The Matrix.
Oh, I like the 4K version of The Matrix because it's a nice balance of the green.
Absolutely, yeah. It's the thing is, there's just a whole story behind it on like just the different ways Matrix has looked on every single release it's gotten. Really, a YouTuber I sometimes watch, and I think you'd sometimes watch as well. Noodle. I wish he had a better name. Has a whole video dedicated to this. The way he goes about it is a bit annoying, personally, but like the main points he's talking about, I get. In that, so The Matrix comes out, and like the film print, because film is not a static thing, and it's always just different no matter what. Even from time, God does his own color pass. It looks it looks different than how it looked on the DVD release that came a little later. And on the DVD release, someone along the line decided they wanted it to look more green and warmer than it did in the theater. So for years, The Matrix has this sort of warm greenish tint to it, and that's just what it's known as. I'm not sure if it was to be more in line with the later Matrix sequels. Hard to know. No one's really sure. But all we know is that the original people behind the first Matrix movie was like, this is fucked up, like what we wanted.
Yeah.
So on the Blu-ray release, they decided to change the green a little bit to be a bit of a cooler green. Green 3. Which also doesn't look like how it looked in the original like film prints that went to theaters. So now we have another different kind of green in most of the movie. That some people like, some people don't, but the thing is it's not quite the way it really should be. So finally, for the 4K release, they went to the effort of trying to get it as close to how it looked in the theater as I think possible.
Yeah.
And maybe just more on what the original intent was anyway, that the original theatrical couldn't capture. So the Matrix in 4K as we have it now is, in my view, the best it's ever looked.
Yeah.
Not just in like picture quality and clarity, but also just on color grade. I think the choice of green, which is almost blue in some places, actually works really well with just the vibe and everything. And it is my... I'm pretty happy to own it on the format, basically. If I had to choose a green, it would be the green I would choose. And it... same with the sequels. The sequels are the sequels, so, you know, I don't want to... No. But, like, they look just... a bit, probably is the best they've they've ever looked as well. So, you know, that's a good release. I think that's a pretty good example of how well a film transfer can be in terms of like restoration on like a 4K on the 4K disc. My bad example.
Okay, I want to quickly. Well, we're talking about green. I want to give a hot take here. So this isn't about the Matrix. This is just talking about green has sparked a memory of something else. Not 4K, just a Blu-ray thing. So there's a film called In the Mood for Love directed by Wong Kar-wai. It's a Hong Kong film. Incredible movie. But there's two different Blu-ray editions. There is the first one that was released, I believe, in 2012. That was not supervised by Wong Kar-wai, to my knowledge. It was just, I think a Criterion restoration. Approved, all that sort of stuff. You can't do that without approval, but like, you know, whatever happened. And it retains like a kind of normal color grade to it, whatever that original color grade is. It's, I think, a slightly warmer grade. However, there's also the 2021 re-release, I believe it's from, that was supervised by Wong Kar-wai, where when he scanned it in, what he did was he changed the color grade to be more akin to what he actually had intended when he shot the film. It wasn't necessarily how it was graded when the film was finished and completed, but what he had in mind when he shot the film, which is a bit more of a green...
Which happens.
Yeah. It was a bit more of a greener look. And now, despite this being approved by the director, a lot of people really don't like this version of the movie. They contend that the original warmer version is better. However, I'm going to say that I prefer the green version because it goes hand in hand with the cinematography of that film, the visual language of the film, which is shot in a way that, despite these people, everyone in this film being very intimately close, it's Hong Kong. Things are very tightly packed in space, and it's shot in 4:3. I think it's shot in 4:3. Actually, no, don't quote me on that. I can't remember. There's very rarely, unless it's from a distance. So from a distance, you're seeing multiple people on screen, but what you're seeing is down a hallway. So it's people interacting down a hallway. You're seeing either their back or they're talking to other people outside of the shot. If there's multiple people close up on screen, it's always in separate shots. They're almost never in the same shot. Even, you know, reverse shot. There's no over the shoulder. There's no someone's in, you know, head and, you know, shoulder or whatever. It's to emphasize that despite the physical closeness of these people, there's no intimacy. There's a distinct loneliness going on. The warmer grade, considering how we view color, does not support that approach. Warm is about intimacy. Warm is something we feel when we interact with people, when we like people, when we're close with people. Warmth, it's warmth.
It's more positive. It's why we call people cold when they're more detached and like lifeless. That's just how our brains work.
The green grade, the more green palette, lends a more unnaturalness to it. It's you know, we're all physically this close, but there's no warmth to it. There is no connection, no intimacy. There's nothing personal here.
No spark.
No spark. I think it genuinely, it's, you know, one of these things where you don't necessarily notice something that drastically different about color, because the human eye doesn't work like that unless you're watching them side by side. But I do think that the more green version of the movie works slightly better for what that movie's about, the themes that it's trying to aim for, the visual language that the film uses to convey all of these things. I think the warmer
the
grade,
emotion or like lack thereof kind of like fits more in with that sort of grade. Yeah,
the warmer grade kind of directly goes against that for me. I think it's a bit too intimate, a bit too human in a way, I guess. Not that it's inhuman.
I get it.
But yeah,
it's too warm.
It's too warm. That's my hot take. The new grade. Yeah, my hot take is that Wong Kar-wai is right. So fuck everyone else. I'm sorry, Prof.
No. Oh fuck.
I know that
you're gonna get an angry comment.
I know that you subscribe to the ideal that the other grade is the correct one. I apologize that I disagree.
I'd like to reiterate I'm neutral in this. So you know, I don't attack me.
Anyway, you're bad.
For like a split second though, I thought you were gonna talk about the extended Lord of the Rings Blu-ray.
Oh, yeah, the original Blu-ray had like a more green look to. I don't really care.
For some fucking reason.
Yeah, for some reason they fixed it. At this point, I don't care.
I don't like it. Like from what I've seen, I just think it clashes so much with Fellowship, especially because that's such a warm film. I'm glad the 4K of Lord of the Rings also has its own sort of problems you can talk about, but I think overall it's better.
Yeah. Anyway, your bad example that you were gonna give before I
interjected. My bad example, my completely awful example is quite an unexpected one because it also involves the use of AI, which is now a plague that is infecting everything. Wallace and Gromit, of all things.
Oh, I completely forgot about these. Fuck.
So, a little bit of context. Christmas last year, I decided I wanted to go through all of the Wallace and Gromit shorts and the two movies, really, that have come out around them. And being me, I want to get it in the best quality, so I wanted to look at if there's been a 4K release, because you'd think a 4K release of a claymation style like shorts would be fantastic, amazing. It would be gorgeous to look at. They fucked it.
Yeah, they had me at the sidelines going, no.
Wait. They completely fucked it, because instead of doing an actual restoration, the BBC, who owns the rights to like the distribution at least, decided to be lazy about it and just upscale the current HD masters that have been around since like 2009.
Yeah.
And just put an AI upscale like algorithm through them. So now you've got all this sweet detail and like and like the plasticine and stuff just completely gets scruffed out into this super flat, completely archaic, completely anachronistic to the entire method of creation that is Wallace and Gromit. And it's from what I've seen, it's not it gets worse and worse as the shorts go on in like the most recent collection. So like A Grand Day Out is mostly fine. There's a bit of there's some parts of it that are a bit too smoothed out, but it's mostly fine. But then as you get further and further on to like A Close Shave, where like there's just full on parts of Wallace's face that's way too smooth compared to other parts of his face, until you finally hit A Matter of Loath and Death, which was shot digitally, so it has those problems as well in the upscaling, and there's just no detail at all. It's just flat, which is double shit because it was still plasticine. This was real stuff that they shot, and all the details just gone. So learning that, I decided not to get the 4K at all, and just got the standard Blu-ray release, which is just the same Blu-ray release that they've had since 2009, and just put a new sticker on it, and it's better. Yeah, it's just better.
The thing that sucks about Wallace and Gromit specifically is that I always hate to give the BBC credit, but credit where credit is due, that for a long time, they were genuinely the best in the game when it came at upscaling stuff. And they showed that they still have it when they redid the Doctor Who season 1 through 4 box set. Because a lot of their stuff exists on tape, purely SD digital footage, they got really good at upscaling. I don't know what the old methods were, but they were good at it. A lot of that Doctor Who stuff looks great.
Yeah, like the Doctor Who first Russell T Davies era I have on Blu-ray. I'd still call the best versions of those like seasons just because of how they look. There's a bit of some egregious things to do with like, you know, because they're 1080p and stuff, and they were like
it's frame rate and they're sort of in issues.
That's it, yeah.
Which are fixed on like the new box set.
Yeah, I've still got one of the slightly older collections that came out around 2013-ish, so they've still got a bit of like a speed and like pitch problem. Yeah. But you get the new ones now. That's fixed, and they're the best they've ever looked. Get that version if you can, please.
Even the classic Who box sets up until a certain point with the AI, but like some of those look great. You know, the BBC were good at it. You know, I had the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy at one point. I didn't really click with it and I sold it, but that's besides the point. And that looked pretty good. Again, Red Dwarf, you know, looks great on Blu-ray. These are things that they look great on Blu-ray. They're inherently limited, but they still look great. They were good at that. They were good at what they did. And I don't know why they decided...
It was the best they could do.
I don't know why they decided, let's go with AI that shows that it does not have the same results. You know? It pisses me off.
There's a whole controversy with, like, I think it's season 25 of Classic Who, where they really start with the restoration team, because Doctor Who has a whole restoration team to itself on, like, upscaling like the older seasons and getting them to look the best they look. They've just completely shit the bed and are now just throwing it all in an AI algorithm to do their job for them, and it looks like complete arse. Like, you've to the point where you've got like Tom Baker's teeth being digitally corrected by an AI so it looks guffy between like shots, and like entire set details just being completely erased, and just it's not good. It shouldn't have passed any sort of quality control, and they're just doing it because, look, we have new technology that does all this stuff for us. Everything is amazing. Push it through. And no matter how many times people say, this looks like shit, they go, no, this is great. What, you want us to painstakingly do all this and waste so much time when we can just do this? You don't know anything. The actual head of the restoration team has actually had that sentiment to people online. And like, I was tempted to start collecting like classic Doctor Who Blu-rays, but now I'm gonna have to check the ones that have AI and that don't have it, and I kind of have to live in fear on if new like releases of those older Blu-ray sets are gonna be re-upscaled again with AI and just completely fucking ruined.
Yeah. God. I forgot that they had been doing that, because there's not been like a huge amount of things that they've done with it yet. Though I can only hope that the TV movie is an indication that they're not actually fully going in that direction, that they've learned from Wallace and Gromit and the one or two, I can't remember if they did 2 box sets of Doctor Who that had that on it, or if it was just the one. Like, I really hope
there's one that was like, the first one is the one I obviously know about because that's what it was going around, but it might be 2.
Yeah. Have to hope that they've learned the lessons from that's not what people want. You know, it may be faster, it may be something you can turn around for far cheaper and put on the disc and you make more profit from, but people aren't going to buy it. People aren't going to want to support the quality of that product, and that's hopefully what the BBC have learned, but that kind of still remains to be seen. I hope that the TV movie is an indication that they're still willing to go the mile, even if the mile is just upscaling with the old tech for HD, because that's sort of the limitation of a lot of British productions, is that we didn't use film for a lot of stuff. It was largely locations were film, but anything in the studio was tape, but everything was finished on tape, so a lot of stuff just exists as a master tape, so there's only so much you can do with it. That's just the way of British TV. It was the way of American TV actually for a long time. It was only like the late 80s, 90s that they started shooting stuff on 35mm, which there's a whole other thing about that, because anime did the same thing. They would finish a lot of stuff with 35mm because at that point it was becoming cheap. That's why a lot of stuff from the 80s, specifically for TV across the globe, kind of looks great. It's because it was all it was becoming cheaper to shoot on film compared to shooting on tape.
This is a random question that like has nothing to do with our conversation, but now that it's in my head, I just want to ask: did Twin Peaks shoot on film?
Twin Peaks shoot on film. That was largely different because that was David Lynch that was in charge of that, so he would have probably fought hard to get that to be shot on film.
I know. Yeah, I know. It's just I didn't know if there was like some sort of secret story where like, oh no, that he was forced to shoot on tape or something.
No. That was shot on film. The Blu-ray looks beautiful for that.
God, I will get to it eventually. Hopefully this year, I promise. Yeah, but it's also why like some stuff like Friends, which you wouldn't expect to have like be able to be restored like so beautifully, even in like 4K now.
Seinfeld,
and it just is like a sitcom. Yeah, that's in Dolby Vision for some reason on Netflix.
That's a whole thing that I don't think they went about it the correct way. I don't think they've got a proper restoration for Seinfeld. Unlike the Friends box set that was put out on 4K a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
But you know, that sort of thing continued on into the 2000s and 2010s. I think Band of Brothers and The Pacific were all shot on film. And then Breaking Bad, at least the first couple of seasons, were very much shot on... No, it has to be all of them. Shot on film because they were all restored into 4K just for Netflix. I'd kill for the home video version of Breaking Bad on 4K, but considering you can't currently buy it on Blu-ray anymore, who knows when that'll happen. I'm glad I picked up the Blu-ray set when I did.
Yeah, lucky.
Yeah, it literally went out of print, I think, like a couple of months after that. And because HMV were selling it off, and they're like, only this price with any other purchase. And it was like I think £15 for all seasons with any other purchase.
Oh,
so
shit,
I immediately
that's
saw
a
that and
good
was like,
deal.
yeah.
Yeah, grab that. That's a steal.
um
while just before we move on
mhm.
from the whole British, like old British TV being like
Yeah.
shot on like tape and stuff and always being in standard definition, we do have to like, I do want to bring up the little caveat that sometimes it's spotty because like location filming would always be on film.
Yeah.
Even if it was just like 16mm, like that was still thing. I bring this up because again, Doctor Who, good example.
Yeah.
There's a lot of times where like in the Blu-ray releases, normal on set like stuff would be shot on tape, so that's always standard definition. But on location shooting, that would always be film. So there's a good chance that like HD restorations of that would be in true HD and always look pretty good. Yeah, there was even a time where like because of a strike that was happening at the time, Spearhead from Space, I think, which is John Pertwee's first story, was completely shot on film because some sort of strike action or whatever was happening at the time meant they had to shoot it all on film, which means, ironically enough, now it's probably the only classic series you can get fully in full HD, and I think it even got a standard Blu-ray release by itself.
That's interesting because like a lot of these things would be like edited and finished on tape, and because of just the nature of some of it being shot on film and then that film being transferred to then be like edited, I'm surprised a lot of that still exists, because a lot of that sort of thing would just get chucked or lost or destroyed, or you know, a lot of these like are junked. That was a whole thing with the BBC, but like to throw away film strippings for something that you're kind of finishing in a different way is kind of common. There's a few anime that only exist in standard definition because they were finished on tape, even though they were animated on film. Because the film's just been chucked because they were like, well, we edited it on tape. We keep the tapes, but we don't keep the film.
Yeah, this is just dead weight now.
Yeah. I think that's what happened with another Anno series called His or Her Circumstances. Carrie Cano. I'm sure Prof will immediately message me and be like, actually.
yeah. I'm sure.
Yeah, they'll let me know what's up with that. I'm sure they've told me before, and that's why this is in my mind. But I might be getting the details on it wrong.
We're calling them out a lot this episode, aren't we?
I don't mean it in like a bad way. I'm fully saying this as things of like, I know I will say something, and Prof is the person who will correct me if I'm wrong most of the time.
Yeah, it sounds about right.
And I like that, because I hate when I get something wrong. And sometimes I just don't have the way of finding out if I'm wrong, unless I'm told I'm wrong. But, yeah. I'm trying to think of any other, like, example I want to close with. But I think I've gone through a lot of the, like, big ones. Other than getting into, like,
I can't think of
regional issues where we just don't have certain movies for one reason or another. Like, we have Evil Dead 1 and 2. We don't have Army of Darkness in 4K over here. Halloween,
for some reason,
pretty much most of those movies in the Halloween series we don't have on 4K. We did have the first movie. That's long out of print and very expensive now. To the point I imported it from America because it was far cheaper. Granted, it also has a lot more bonus features on it. It's a whole 3-disc set, with like the extended cut and stuff like that. There's
Evil Dead 1 is actually a pretty good example for like restoration and stuff, because like the standard Blu-ray
was in
of Evil Dead
16:9.
1, yeah, they cropped it, and like there's an added, I don't know if it's just a grade or like, I think it's the grade, yeah, but just like they've added an extra sort of layer on top of it that makes it look a lot. I mean, the colors seem to pop out more.
Yeah.
And it's like they've enhanced it, but like at the same time, it's not really an enhancement because I don't like it as much as what the 4K did, which was a lot more of a straight transfer and conversion, full frame, and the colors are a lot more muted and naturalistic, which I think fits far more.
We're about to see that with Alice in Wonderland soon, the Disney movie. Because the Blu-ray release, I think this may extend to the DVD, has the colors pumped up just too high. And I think the 4K version's gonna restore it back to like a more neutral, kind of like how it was originally intended to look. I can't
watch out for that. I didn't even know.
Yeah, I can't remember if that was one of the ones, because for a while Disney did a similar thing of like presenting them in a different aspect ratio, and it's only with like the 4K ones we've got the more like authentic 1.66 to 1 theatrical version of like The Lion King and
CinemaVision, or maybe that's something else.
I can't remember what that format's technically called. I think 1.66 to 1 is closer to theatrical 4:3 than like our 1.43 to 1 that we have for home video. I can't remember. Aspect ratios are fucking, it's hard to keep all of them in your head.
Yeah. And if we go far enough into that topic, we start talking about fucking pan and scan on VHS.
Oh god, yeah. Fuck. Pan and scan also exists on Blu-ray for Dragon Ball, if we want to get into it.
Oh fuck.
Because for Dragon Ball Z, they were like, well, we can't have it in 4:3. The normies don't want to watch that. So they made it in 16:9 and did a modern version of pan and scan. Then they re-released it for the 30th anniversary with the proper 4:3, slightly cropped because a lot of the film's just too damaged at this point to properly have it like full frame, because a lot of the stuff's like, you know, film kind of degrades in the way type thing. So slightly cropped down. People complained about that, but I think that's probably the best that Dragon Ball's ever gonna look for home video, unless like fans send in generational prints that look better. But that release comes out, they do like the whole like they did a big box set, but then they released the seasons individually. I have them, can't see them on the shelf, they're covered up, but whatever. Those go out of print, then they re-release it again on Blu-ray with different artwork, different packaging, and it's the fucking 16:9 version again, the fucking pan and scanned version. They've just re-released that, and I don't.
Yeah.
And you know what sucks? The Dragon Ball fandom is so shit that they buy it all up. They bought the original Blu-ray release, they bought the fucking 30th anniversary version, and now they're buying up.
I feel like there's a specific call out here.
Goddamn fucking new version again. Yeah, as a call out to very specific people I need to interact with on a very regular basis. I don't think they listen to this show. I don't care. You're the problem.
You're gonna get an angry message from one of them now when this comes out.
I have fully called out a couple of those people as being part of the problem before, because they are. They, by their own self-admittance, the way they interact with it and buy the stuff that gets put out for Dragon Ball, they are part of the problem.
Yeah. I mean, I love my favorite show to death, but I'm not gonna buy every single fucking release for Doctor Who that exists.
Yeah. I know I'm saying this when I own like multiple different copies of like Ghost in the Shell and Akira and all that sort of stuff, but I'm not like buying inferior products that are then released after better products, if that makes sense. Like, I'm not.
Yeah, exactly. Like, if I'm gonna buy something, it needs to have like an actual improvement upon it. And like, or even just more, even if that's just like more special features or something that wasn't originally released.
And like for Ghost in the Shell, a lot of it's built up of like, I had the original Blu-ray, I picked up the Steelbook because it was pretty cheap, then the 4K version came out, I got the DVD because it had a bonus feature that hadn't been carried across to any of the other versions, and, you know, then it became a joke, and I bought the VHS, and then I bought the Laserdisc, but those are just kind of cool collectibles more than anything else.
That's an in-joke, and you're committing to the bet.
Yeah. But yeah, there's myriad examples of things that look great on 4K. There's like 20% look like shit, and the 20% are the problem.
I mean, yeah, if you want to go to anime, you could even we'd almost want to start talking about how like I don't know the tape or film degrades enough so now you get like a slight pink sort of
Yeah.
tint to like a lot of stuff that's happened. I know of Sailor Moon is a prime example that I saw, but it's happened with Evangelion as well, from what I know.
Evangelion has like
not quite to the same extent,
yeah.
but like there are some times where like there's this image of Rey that I used it as a profile pic for like a long time as well recently, where like it's just her average sort of Rey stare into the camera, but like I've seen multiple versions of that like frame where like it's the colors are pretty natural. I think from like I want to say probably the Platinum DVD release, but then like you get like a HD release and there's like a noticeable like almost I want to call it vaporwave tint over it where it's like pink and beige and it's like, are you on like your summer holiday right now? Why are you here?
Yeah, anime is a whole other biscuit.
Yeah, we've got a whole show about it.
Yeah, I've pointed out many of the problems of anime stuff that we've watched, and there's probably, if I put more thought into it, like right now I could probably come up with some other examples, but yeah.
Yeah, we've been talking a lot in this episode already.
We've gone over an hour now, so I think rather than ramble for this, even though we could go on for a lot longer about this sort of topic, we will save it for whenever I finally put together that other episode idea. That's going to be a long one, and I don't quite know how logistically it's going to work out. That's going to be another thing I need to contend with.
I can't wait to make PowerPoint presentations.
Yeah, I'm going to have to fucking fire up Google PowerPoint or whatever the fuck it's called. Google Slides.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, that's been this episode of Anime Lane. And we will see you guys next week when we're potentially doing Godzilla raids again and a Lupin. We might be doing,
I hope so.
More Zeta Gundam, so cool. But who knows? It's a bit up in the air right now. We shall see. Anyway, if it's just Godzilla and Lupin, we'll see you next week. If it's Zeta Gundam, you'll see the Tears of Time. Bye-bye.
Bye.